Hello there, thanks for clicking on this video. My name is Jay, and one wheels have taken over my life so much that every other night I'll have nightmares about my one wheels either being stolen or them spontaneously exploding. And I don't know if that's healthy or not, and I don't know what to do about that. And today I want to do a short video on how to uninstall and reinstall a new Thor controller. At some point during your VES experience, you're going to have to repair your own board, whether that's removing and installing a new controller or putting in a new battery or even a new motor. You're going to need a certain set of skills to be able to own and operate your new board. That's the beauty of where we're at today with our board sports. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to remove and install a new Thor. So I'm going to be taking out an old Thor300 and then replacing it with a Thor301. In 2025, this is our flagship 20S controller. Should I get this up more close now? Wouldn't that be smart for me to do? I think so. I think that would be smart for me to do. All right, so first we're going to unscrew all of these M2 Allen wrenches. Your controller box unit should have already came with a little bag full of them, and you're just gonna undo all of them. All right, now we can take off our cover and remove the gasket. You don't actually have to remove the gasket, but I'm removing it. Now, my controller is not hooked up to a battery, but if yours is, the first thing you're going to do is unhook the battery lead. Make sure to cover this up because it is still live. Next, we're going to press in on the power button. What this is going to do is it's going to discharge all of the residual electricity inside of the capacitors on the controller so that we can operate it on it fine without risking a short or anything. After doing this, you won't short your controller if a screw falls down or anything like that. It's gonna make a little beep, turn on, and then turn off very quick. Now we're gonna use a combination of M2 and M3 Allen wrenches. First, I'm gonna take off this light bar. The light bar is held in by this M2 mounting screw. You might have to get a little bit of leverage on it, so I took a pair of needle noses to hold it still while I unscrewed it. All right, now you can take it and pull it to the side. I'm going to start disassembling the controller by taking off the LED bar just so that it's up and out of the way. Now, I'm using a pair of pliers here because I know how to be careful and gentle with this, but if you are not careful with this, you can rip up the connectors. I would recommend just doing it with your fingers, but I'm agile enough that I'm not going to pull it up. All right, next are going to be these mounting posts. These mounting posts are a pain in the butt. You sort of have to grab them with a needle nose plier and twist them around because there is no real place to kind of catch them at. You're going to have to be a little bit crafty with this one. All right, now I'm going to use my M3 Allen wrench to unscrew all of the rest of these screws. There's 5 in total. There's basically 2 down at the very bottom, which are the mounting posts. There's 2 at the top, which are going to be closer to the floor of the controller. And then there's usually 1 in the middle. It's important to remember that there are multiple Thor300 reversions out there in the wild, and not all of them are exactly the same. Some of them have screws in different places, but they all generally follow the same ethos as the one you see on screen. Now I'm going to remove that protective shield, and now we have the bare, exposed Thor300. Remember, since we've already discharged the caps, it is fine to be touching this controller. We're not going to do anything scary or bad with it at this point. See, I forgot to take out that last little mounting screw there at the bottom, and it's just holding it in ever so slightly. All right, so the controller is still going to be held in by a little bit of thermal paste between the bottom of the controller and the controller box. So I'm going to take off my bumper and take a heat gun or a hair dryer, and I'm going to heat up the bottom of the box where the Thor is. This is going to loosen up that thermal paste so that we can remove the controller box. It sort of acts like a glue in a way. Flip her on over. And now you can peel it up and see that thermal paste I was talking about. But before we're able to take it out, we're still connected by our 3 phase wires. We're going to cut them loose and start pulling them apart. You do not need to cut these connectors. They're held together by a little bit of electrical tape and a heat shrink. Just remove the electrical tape and the heat shrink and then pull them apart. Now we can successfully remove the Thor300. Out with the old and in with the new. It is up to you whether or not you want to apply thermal paste or another thermal pad. The Thors are incredibly heat efficient, so there is no real need to have a thermal pad, but it might be wise to add another thermal paste down at the bottom. It is very important that your screws have these plastic nylon washers on the bottom of them. If they don't, you are putting a bare metal screw down on an electrically charged PCB bottom, and it can short out. I've seen it happen before. Please don't mess with it. Make sure that your mounting posts have that nylon washer. The way that I like to install these is I like to pre-thread the Allen screw that was already on the mounting screw so that I can twist it all together as one unit. To put on the light bar, I'm going to have to hold it still while I spin back that Allen screw, but it makes the install a lot easier. Now for the front two, and you'll probably notice in this video that I don't put in the center one. The new versions of the Thor has the phase wire going straight across where that hole is at the bottom, so you can't thread a screw back in. 4 screws is more than enough to keep this sucker stuck in there, so don't worry about it. It's not going to come falling out. Here's me. Remember how I said I have to go through and like unscrew them? That's me unscrewing them. All right, set the light bar back in place, and I can screw it all the way back on. All right, so here is the pinout for the Thor301. For the lights, they work in one big chain. So first comes the status, then the front LEDs, then the rear LEDs. Of course, I don't have a rear LED box on this controller, so I'm gonna leave that space empty. But know that there is an order to how these are plugged in. Here's my button that goes in that second bottom one. This is the foot pad connector. And these are the Hall sensors. So my camera cut out when I was recording this part, so I skipped ahead a little bit, but I'll explain. All of our phases are color coded, but the order doesn't really matter. The order doesn't matter when you're going through and recalibrating the motor. It'll rematch all the phases correctly. But if you're relying on something like a pre-config or anything like that, the order is going to matter. But in this case, I'm recalibrating the controller, so the order does not matter. It is also very important to put back heat shrink over top of these connectors. 1, it just helps the connectors stay together so that they don't accidentally slide out. And 2, once you put them back together, you'll see a little bit of the copper lining still exposed. You do not want these exposed. If they're exposed and they touch each other, it could easily explode. So make sure that you insulate everything properly again. Everything is going to be bouncing around inside of this box as you're hitting trails and whatnot, so you want as less movement as you possibly can. All right, now you're going to plug in your battery lead back into the harness. There's going to be a little bit of a spark here. That's the inrush current going into the capacitors of the battery. It isn't really bad when you do it one time, but when you unplug and replug this connector in 20 to 30 times over, it can slowly degrade the connector and the controller itself. So one time is fine, but many times it starts to get worse. Now I'm just gonna throw the gasket back on and start putting the lid back together.